Hello Answerly viewers, I just finished reading Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This is going to be about chapters 25 through 38, which is the end of the book. So I had a lot of thoughts about a lot of things that happened in this book, but I was so overwhelmed by the ending. I was so overwhelmed by the scene where they went to go get the 8th Simon Snow book that I'm gonna talk about that first. So there were a lot of sad things that happened in this book. There was stuff about her mother, stuff about her being used, stuff about her sister and her dad both being sick or hurt, and there was a lot of emotional stuff, but the only thing in this book that actually made me cry real tears was them getting their 8th Simon Snow book and worrying that it was over. I don't know, there are a lot of books out there that have made me cry, but I don't think I've really connected with a book on a super personal, emotional level the way that I connected with this book. I really want to meet Rainbow Rowell and like hug her for taking this unique experience that so many of us had and validating it in an actual piece of literature. Not only validating fan fiction, but validating the amount of emotion and importance that a person can feel for a book series ending. Just picturing, I had the most beautiful, perfect, clear, vivid image of them at their bookstore and people wearing witch hats because they don't understand the fandom, and you know, people clapping when they sell the first book and holding that book in your hands and welling up with tears, and I just remember that so vividly, and it was beautiful and amazing and wonderful. So I just want to take a second to appreciate the sheer amount of respect that Rainbow Rowell shows for this experience because I loved it. That aside, I did have some problems with Cather in the last couple of scenes. She obviously came a long way and is a great girlfriend and a great sister and all of that, but I almost feel like obviously Cather isn't a Mary Sue because this author of all people knows to avoid that, but I kind of feel like Cather was extremely self-righteous throughout this entire book. I know that a lot of it was chalked up to her having her own issues that she had to sort through, being the crazy one and stuff, but she spent the entire book judging people. She spent the entire book judging Ren. She spent the entire book judging her mom and was just sort of proved right a lot. That kind of bothered me. I mean, I'm glad that Ren was better, but I really didn't want Ren to end up in the hospital for drinking too much because I think that the book felt a little bit preachy in that sense, that Cather was right, drinking's horrible and everyone who does it is gonna get alcohol poisoning and like ruin their future. Obviously, I think that it's totally great if you don't want to drink in college, and that's fine, but I think there's also a better way to show it, like do it in a healthy way, not like don't do it at all or end up in the hospital, you know? So I didn't like that a lot of the things that Cather was incredibly judgmental and self-righteous about just ended up her being right and her never having to like step back and be like, oh, maybe I was a little bit judgmental as well, you know? So, and also I was actually kind of hoping that her mom had grown up and that Cather would have to like really come around to forgiving people, but when her mom turned out to just sort of be a loser, that it didn't really feel like Cather learned anything. I feel like she was just right to ignore her mom and that Ren was wasting her time trying to have a relationship with her when it was just pointless. A lot of the conversations that Cath had with Levi, with Ren, with her professor were like almost kind of painful to listen to. I know that these scenes were supposed to show Cath's weaknesses, you know, her inability to write the story, her lack of caring, all of the times that she made excuses with Levi. And again, I didn't feel like she really had to like face these things. She just sort of eventually wrote the story, and I think it's good. I did really appreciate the argument that she had with Levi, where he was like, I can't believe you're throwing away this class twice, and she realized how stupid she was. But that was kind of one of the only turning points I saw for her, where she realized that she and her actions were directly causing a bad thing in her life. A lot of times it was the bad people around her doing bad things, you know? I also wrote down a quote, to really be a nerd, she'd decided you had to prefer fictional worlds to the real one. Again, I found Cath to be extremely judgmental. I am a really huge advocate of not nerd shaming. I think that anyone with any amount of interest in any nerdy subject can identify with a nerd. And just because you don't prefer to live in the fictional world doesn't mean that you're not nerd enough. That bothered me a little bit. And I think part of me didn't even understand why Reagan and Levi liked her as much as they did, because I found her to be extremely tiresome, and I don't know if I would have tried as hard as them, you know, to help her and make her see reason. She very much seemed like she wanted to just do her own thing and be left alone and didn't even care about school. I found that to be really interesting because while Ren wasn't caring about school and her life by drinking and ending up in the hospital, Kath was doing something equally as bad by not turning in her assignment and just skipping school. And I felt like Ren very, very much had to answer to that, and Kath kind of just got away without having to, like, face that. I don't think Kath ever totally realized that what she was doing was really bad and irresponsible and immature, except for that, like, one scene at the end, but that was it. But going back to the things that I did really like about this book, because overall I loved this book a lot more than those things bothered me, and I think it's totally valid to love a book and not like the main character that much. There is a lot of Harry Potter that I did not like Harry for, and it didn't make me like the book less. It actually made him seem more human, and Kath very much seemed human. I just didn't understand why everybody loved her so much. There was a quote that I wrote down. I believe Kath said, she said, "I just don't think she realizes," she being Gemma T. Leslie, the author of Simon Snow, "I just don't think she realizes his potential as a character," talking about Basil. And that is literally something that I've said about J.K. Rowling and Draco Malfoy. And that scene, the way that it ended with Basil coming and helping Simon, and, you know, maybe he doesn't like him, but he likes this world that they live in, and he's not a bad guy, and he helped. That is the ending that I wanted for Harry Potter. This is something that, like, still drives me crazy. That scene in the Room of Requirement where Harry ends up helping Draco, that could have easily been swapped. It could have been Draco helping Harry, and it would have, because Harry didn't need the good karma of helping Draco. Harry has helped a lot of people. Harry's done a lot of good things, and Draco is honestly sort of a coward, but ultimately a pretty good guy, actually. And I know that a lot of people wouldn't agree with that, but I genuinely believe it. I think that he has unfortunate parentage, but he has a loving mother and a dad who is misguided but tries hard to do something. And I just really, really wanted Draco to, even if he didn't become a good guy, even if he, you know, still was snarky and all of that, I wanted him to at least once make the decision to help Harry. And he didn't, and it was always disappointing, but it's obviously J.K. Rowling's book and she can do whatever she wants with it, but I feel like that was a missed opportunity. And so actually, I don't know if this is why Rainbow Rowell did this. I don't know if this was like her sticking it. I don't know if we have the same thoughts about Harry Potter, because I might even be reading into this too much, but she ended Simon Snow the way that I wished Harry Potter ended, and it made me really happy. You know, a little tiny piece of the frustration that I felt back in 2007 was resolved by reading this book, even though nothing's changed. It doesn't change anything. Exactly the way that Kath realized that her fanfic didn't matter when it came out, because Gemma T. Leslie doesn't even know about her, and it's her own thing that she can do however she wants. That aside, it still made me feel good. So let me know how you felt. Let me know if you got the same vibes that I got, you know, the Harry Potter stuff. If it made you feel anything about your fandom days, and if you got emotional at the end of this book. To like a casual reader, there was nothing emotional about going and picking up the 8th book, but I shed real tears. I'll be back next week with a comment video, so be sure to leave lots of exciting, awesome comments down below for me to screen cap and put in next week's video, and then we'll do a real polished review that isn't me just waffling on just having finished reading the book and being all emotional. Thank you